Hi, Brooke. It's Katelyn. I just wanted to, I'm sure you hear the banging in the background. We're having our floors redone, and so if you hear loud noises, I apologize, but that's what's in the background. So I just wanted to warn you. So let's talk about these last images for the final week. These are really great images to send because I think I can help you a little bit with them. And so let's get started. Let's start with the family formals. It's really hard to be creative with these. I think more importantly, maybe not being creative, but focus on trying to make everyone look really at ease. I think that's a really big part of it. So, you don't have to think of crazy poses for family portraits, but you do need to think about how you can make everyone look like they love each other a little bit more. So, something I try to do is, if you have this family here, have him take this arm and hold her arm really lightly, like right here. That can help everyone look more connected. And just allowing you have the spacing down, between each person. That looks great. So the biggest suggestion I would say as far as exposure would be, um, I'm not sure if you mentioned this or not. I don't think you are, but if you're indoors like this, I think using a flash, this would be a good time to use a flash, um, so that you don't have to shoot at 1/40th of a second. Because if you're shooting at 1/40th of a second, you're probably going to end up with a little bit of camera shake, which just means a little bit of a blurred image. So if you're shooting at your aperture's at 4.0, that's pretty good. For only 4 people, you could probably do at 2.8 or 3.2. You also can raise your ISO a bit. It's only at 250, and so I would lower this a little bit, and then and then increase your ISO, and then that allows your shutter to not be so low. So that's something to think about. If you're looking at shooting portraits like this inside of a building, since you have white walls in this building, you could actually tilt your flash to reflect off of another white wall, so it's not flashing directly at them. I never point a flash directly at, the subject, just because that's going to be an incredibly flat and boring picture. So play around with that. I think it's definitely, this would be a perfect situation to use a flash. And then when it comes to editing this, obviously right here it was dark and green. And then you changed the green. You got rid of the green, which is good, and you brightened it up. If I was going to make any adjustments, I would just make it a little warmer. Not just by using the temperature dial here, but also by going down to the highlights and changing the highlights. So, and if you've noticed, if other people are watching this is something I'm doing to a lot of your images. Sometimes when you shoot in less than ideal lighting situations, you can't just adjust the color by adjusting the temperature. You need to adjust the color of the highlights and the shadows. I'm also going to bump up the fill light and darken the shadows to make it pop a little bit more. So let's compare what I did. So this is what I edited, and that's what you had. So side by side, you can see that looks a little bit warmer, it's a little bit brighter, and it looks more print ready. This looks a little bit blue, and so I hope that helped a little bit. Let's move on to this one. First of all, it is hard to pose guys. You can't do as much with them as you can with women, but there are some options. So if he was sitting here, I would shoot a shot just like you did, and then I'd have him sit up and lean one arm over his knee, like he's just sitting there a little bit. It's hard with guys because you have to make them feel like they're models, because if not, they're really not going to be into picture taking at all. So you have to talk them up a lot, and allow them to be really free flowing in the way they pose, or else they'll look very stiff. So I think you did a great job here. The only thing I would change is that his feet are cut off, and so when you first start doing photography and as you become more and more experienced, cut off appendages seem to be one of the things that stand out the most. So as soon as I looked at this, I thought, oh, this is a great shot, but his feet are cut off. So when you cut off someone's feet in a full body shot, it's really obvious. So I would just focus on that. If you are shooting a really close portrait, like for example, if you shot a portrait that was like that, I mean, obviously you wouldn't do that with this image, then it's obvious that you're zooming in. You'd probably want to include his hand, yeah. But it's obvious that his feet aren't supposed to be in there. You know, it's a close portrait. If you're shooting a full body portrait, then his feet need to be in there. So now you cropped it in a little bit, and I would say, you know, in the future you'll start shooting more like this in camera. But go ahead and try to make his head go in this top quadrant just a little bit to use the rule of thirds. Another thing I noticed, because he is African American, you want to make sure that when you darken the blacks that his skin doesn't get unnaturally dark. You want him to look like he does in real life, and so I would lighten the darks but keep the shadows really dark, if that makes sense. So by adjusting this, I take the heaviness out of the picture and I allow just the darkest part of the pictures to pop. This is also a little bit cool too, so once again I'm going to bump up the fill light. And I'm going to go down here and change the color of the highlights. So if you don't have Lightroom and this seems like a foreign concept to you, it's okay. Just this is something to look forward to because Lightroom makes editing so much easier. So let me show you what I did. So that's what you edited, and that's what I edited. And so the biggest difference is that I took the dark heaviness out of his face because his face is really dark and his pants are really dark, and then I lightened that up and I added more warm tones. So I hope that was helpful. Let's move on to this one. So I can't really tell by your settings if you used a flash or not, but this would definitely be a situation for a flash. And when you shoot an image and it's this dark, even if you're shooting in RAW, your image is going to be somewhat damaged if you have to really, really brighten it up. And so our goal should be, you know, to shoot much brighter in camera. And here are some ways you can do that. So if you're shooting with a 35mm lens, you know, 4.5 is pretty standard for this type of group. But your ISO could really go up a lot higher, and your flash could be powered up a little higher. This is, in my opinion, it should look like this straight out of camera. And that's not hard to do. You just need more power from your flash, and you need more ISO, which means your camera is more sensitive to light. So I would power up your ISO and power up your flash a little bit more so that when you shoot, this is what you get straight out of camera. I think you did a great job recovering this image, and you know, I think it's for being inside a church, you did a great job. It's really hard to make it work inside of a church, so you did great. The only thing I would say is sometimes when you shoot with a somewhat wide angle, the edges can be darker than the front, and so if you're in Lightroom, you can go to Lens Corrections, go to, oh, here, Manual, and you can go to this dial, and you can basically just brighten the edges. And then I would do a little bit of this. I would actually brighten it just a tad. Just because if you printed it the way it was, some of their faces might be pretty dark. So I hope this helps. I'm sorry for all the hammering downstairs. But it's been great getting to know you through your work the last 4 weeks, and I hope you enjoyed this and you learned a lot, and have a happy new year. Bye.